Wherever in the world you live, you cannot avoid Elon Musk. He's got an opinion on everything. Most times it's irritating, but in this case, he's making a very important point. On what? The UK's so-called grooming gangs. It all began with a demand from the city of Oldham. Officials there noticed a worrying trend, a rise in reports of grooming and abuse of teenage girls. So the city asked for a public inquiry, a full-fledged probe by the UK Home Office. That is their home ministry, the Home Office. But the security minister has rejected it. Her name is Jess Phillips. She wrote back to Oldham saying that the city council must probe the crimes and that London will not intervene. Now this decision has triggered backlash on social media and Elon Musk has joined in. He said the minister must be jailed for her decision. He also said judges and cops must be fired. It has now turned into a national debate. Author J.K. Rowling has talked about it. Former Prime Minister Liz Truss has waded in. And everyone is slamming the UK government. So tonight, let's take a closer look at this problem. What are these grooming gangs? What is their history in the UK and why is London so afraid of probing them? Grooming here refers to sexual grooming. It is the first step before child sexual abuse. Predators pick their target, they establish trust and emotional connection, and finally they abuse them sexually. These predators convince children that the abuse is normal, that it's not wrong or illegal, hence the term grooming. It's been a recurring problem in the UK. The biggest case was in Rotherham. Grooming gangs abused around 1,400 children there. You heard that right, 1,400 children from the late 1990s onwards. Most of these gangs were made up of British-Pakistani men. They would often park their cars outside schools or care homes. Then gradually they would target young girls. They would offer them all kinds of things like alcohol, cigarettes, drugs, and expensive gifts. Once the girls were vulnerable, they would abuse them. Some of the victims were taken to different cities. They were beaten up, doused in petrol, and warned against telling anyone. This practice went on for nearly 16 years. Many people in the community did flag the issue, but no one wanted to act. Not a single case reached a court until 2010. That's when 5 men were convicted of sexual abuse. British journalists began asking around in Rotherham, and slowly they uncovered the scale of this abuse. Later in 2014, a government inquiry report came out. It blamed the police and local officials. Apparently, they knew what was going on, but they chose not to act. In fact, let me quote what the report said. They thought the criminal convictions in 2010 were a one-off isolated case and not an example of a more deep-rooted problem of Pakistani heritage perpetrators targeting young white girls. This was at best naive and at worst ignoring a politically inconvenient truth. Politically inconvenient, that's why no one acted. They thought that if they pointed fingers, they would be branded racist. Because the perpetrators were mostly Pakistani men. Perhaps the same attitude exists now. The Labour Party, the ruling party in the UK, has 11 British-Pakistani MPs. Polls show that 40% of Britain's Pakistani community voted for Keir Starmer. Is that why he is not ordering an inquiry? To appease the Pakistani community? If yes, he is repeating the same mistakes of Rotherham. Pointing out the role of Pakistani men is not racist. In fact, it should trigger questions. Why is this one community perpetrating such abuses? Why are they targeting white girls? Could there be a religious angle to it? Could community leaders be complicit? We are not saying draw conclusions, but certainly these questions need to be asked because young lives have been destroyed by these perpetrators. Many of the survivors are living with the trauma. They are unable to lead normal lives. Surely they and their parents deserve closure. On the policing side, the government has made a few changes. In 2014, they started a nationwide program to tackle child abuse. It's called Operation Stow Wood. Around 200 officers are deputed for it. They have recorded more than 1,300 crimes, 1,300. They've arrested 209 individuals and rescued more than 1,000 survivors. But convictions? Just 20. Imagine that. More than 200 people arrested, but only 20 convictions. So the pace of justice is quite slow, and that's one problem. Secondly, these operations do not reveal what a public inquiry can. Things like systemic failure or motivations like race or religion. These things are important to prevent future abuses. Also, let's call these people what they are. The Brits may woke wash and call them grooming gangs, but they're actually rapist gangs. It shouldn't take an Elon Musk to realize all this, unless children's safety is a luxury in Keir Starmer's Britain.